Hi everyone, and thank you so much for watching my channel, The Witty Turtle. In this video, we are going to revise all the explanations relating to Section 41, Section 43, Clause 1, which speaks about your actual cost. Right? So, coming to the first explanation, that is your explanation number 1, which talks about all those assets for which deduction was earlier claimed under Section 35. Right? So this says that earlier there was a, for example, this is an asset, and earlier this asset was used for scientific research. Okay, scientific research under section 35. Okay, scientific research के लिए ये पहले यूज होता था, but now it is being brought into your business and now it is being used for your business purpose, right? And earlier deduction of this particular asset has been claimed under your section 35. So further we will study that in section 35 on capital expenditures mostly 100% of deduction is claimed, right? 100% of deduction is claimed. So यहाँ पर भी क्या हो जाएगा, you purchase this asset for like rupees 10 lakhs, and you use this for scientific research, and you claimed a deduction for this asset under section 35, which is at the rate of 100% deduction. So your entire 10 lakhs was deducted, right? You claimed deduction for entire 10 lakhs. So now what will be the actual cost of this asset? The actual cost minus the amount of deduction claimed under section 35. So the answer will be the actual cost for this asset will be nil, right? 10 lakhs में आपने इसको purchase किया and you claim deduction for all the 10 lakhs rupees. So the actual cost will be nil. Now coming to explanation 1A. So this particular explanation talks about conversion of stock in trade into capital asset, right? So earlier the asset was being used as a stock in trade, but now it has been turned into your capital asset. So in this case, what happens? The actual cost of such asset in hands of the assessee will be the fair market value of this asset on the date of conversion, right? This is very simple. We have been studying this in capital gain also. So what will be the cost of this particular asset? It will be the fair market value of this asset on the date of conversion. Okay. Now coming to the explanation number 2. So this particular explanation says that what will be the actual cost of an asset when the asset is acquired by the SSE by way of gift or by way of inheritance. Okay. For example, I got this from my father in inheritance. Okay, from my father or from my grandfather in inheritance. So this particular, so to acquire this particular asset, I didn't have to pay any cost, right? So and after acquiring this, I started using this asset in my business. Okay, I started using this asset in my business. So now what will be the actual cost of this particular asset in my hand? What will be the actual cost? The actual cost will be the written down value of this asset in hands of the previous owner, right? Written down value क्या हो जाएगा यहाँ पे? Your actual cost minus the total depreciation allowed to the previous owner, right? So who is the previous owner in this case? My father or my grandfather, right? So whatever depreciation which is actually allowed to them, before giving it to me, so that amount of depreciation will be deducted from the actual cost of this asset. So this is all about your explanation number 2. Now coming to explanation number 3, which says that, for example, this is an asset which is being acquired by this particular person, this particular SSE, right? So ये जो SSE है, she has been using this asset for her business purpose only. Okay. Now she is running a business which is making loss, PGBP loss. Okay. Now, for example, the WDV of this asset is 1 crore rupees while she is using the asset in her business. Now what happens? She thinks of transferring the asset to this SSE at a very higher amount. Like WDV is 1 crore and she is transferring at around let's say 100 crores. Okay. So here what happens? So in this case, she can like set off the capital gain, set off the short term capital gain with her business loss, and now here she can also claim deduction for this particular asset at a very higher rate. So in such cases, when the AO is confirmed, or like the AO is satisfied that the main purpose of transferring the asset between both the individuals is to reduce the tax liability. So in this case, what happens? In this case, the actual cost of this asset to the SSE, here she is the SSE. The second person, the second owner is the SSE. So in this case, what happens? The actual cost to the SSE shall be the amount which the AO may determine along with approval of the joint commissioner. So in this case, what happens? She cannot consider the actual cost of this asset as 100 crores, but here the AO, the assessing officer, will determine what will be the actual cost of this particular asset, and that actual cost will be approved by the joint commissioner, right? Now you may think that how AO will determine the value of the asset. So generally what happens, AO will take into consideration many aspects, like what was the WTV in the hands of the previous owner, and also what is the fair market value of similar assets in the market, and accordingly AO will determine the actual cost of the asset, right? Now coming to explanation number 4. Explanation number 4 is very similar to this the previous explanation. So in this case, what happens? 3 persons or maybe 4 persons are involved, right? A, B, C, D. Now A transferred an asset to B, B transferred the same asset to C, then C again transferred the same asset to D, and now what happens? D is again transferring the same asset to A. So here what happens? Whoever sold it first, whoever transferred the asset initially, now again वो घूम फिर के उन्हीं के पास आ रहा है, जिसने बेचा था वही खरीद रहे हैं दोबारा, right? Whoever transferred it in the beginning, again he is reacquiring the same asset. So in this case, what happens when this is the case of reacquisition? So in this case, what happens? The actual cost of the asset shall be the lower of these two. What is that? The actual cost will be the lower of WTV at the time of original transfer. Original transfer क्या था? The original transfer was when A, what was the first transfer? When A transferred it to B, right? So what was the WTV at the time of this transfer? And again, what is the reacquisition cost? What is the reacquisition cost? When D again transferred the same asset to the first owner, right? So what will be the actual cost? Actual cost will be the lower of these two. The first is what? WTV at the time of original transfer, and the second point says that the reacquisition cost in the hands of the initial owner, right? When reacquisition is happening, whichever will be the lower of these two, that will be considered as your actual cost, right? I hope this is clear. Now coming to explanation 4a, this is also very similar. So this says that when for example she transferred the asset to her, okay, now what happens? She is again leasing back the asset to the first owner. First owner, second owner. Second owner is leasing back the asset to the first owner, right? So what is happening here? ये सिर्फ पेन एंड पेपर में ही होता है, लाइक वो ऑफिशियल पेपर्स में ही होता है. कोई भी एसेट को लेके नहीं जाता है, कोई भी उसको वापस लाके वहाँ पे इंस्टॉल नहीं करता है. सो in this case, what happens? Your actual cost will be the WDV in hands of the first owner. The WDV in hands of the first owner, right? So here don't get confused कि किसके हाथ में क्या हो रहा है. Here the SSC is the second person, right? Always remember ये yellow वाला है first person and she is the second person. First owner, second owner, right? So when she is transferring the asset to this person, the second owner, and again second owner is leasing it back to the first owner. So in this case, the actual cost in hands of this owner, the second owner, will be the WDV in hands of the first owner. इसके हाथ में क्या WDV था, that will be your actual cost. Now coming to the next explanation, which is your explanation number 5. So this explanation says that this is the SSE, and earlier like this asset used to be her property earlier, right? And she was using this asset for other purpose, not for business purpose. But on a particular date, she took this particular asset into her business and started using this particular asset for her business purpose only, right? So इससे पहले तो वो business के लिए use नहीं कर रहे थे, right? So how can you claim depreciation on that? Because we know that we can claim depreciation, or we can calculate depreciation on a particular asset only if the asset has been used for business purpose only, right? But in this case, she was not using the asset for business purpose earlier. So in this case, the actual cost of this asset would be the cost of acquisition, or the actual cost of the asset minus notional depreciation. So in this case, what is the meaning of notional depreciation? If this asset had been used for business purpose, then what would be the amount of depreciation till date, right from the date of acquisition, right? So जिस दिन से ये एसेट को ये एसएससी ने खरीदा था, उस दिन से लेके आज तक कितना डेप्रिसिएशन हुआ होगा अगर वो बिजनेस पर्पस में यूज होता, तो वो डेप्रिसिएशन अमाउंट को हमें डिडक्ट करना है, माइनस करना है फ्रॉम द एक्चुअल कॉस्ट. Understood? That is known as your notional depreciation. Now coming to explanation number 6 and 7, these two explanations are quite similar. So the explanation number 6 says that whenever one capital asset is being transferred by holding company to its subsidiary company, or by its subsidiary company to its holding company, so in this case what happens, the actual cost of the asset will be considered as the amount. If the transferor company would not have transferred it, then what would be the cost in hands of the transferor company? That will be known as your cost in the hands of the transferee company. For example, holding company, subsidiary company. Okay, so holding company was like the cost of the asset in hands of the holding company was 10 lakhs, and now after depreciation it became 7 lakhs in the year of transfer, right? So in the year in which it was transferred to the subsidiary company, so the actual cost of the asset in hands of the subsidiary company will be the like whatever is the cost in hands of the first company, if the first company would not have sold or transferred the asset, right? The very same thing goes for the amalgamating company, is that the when two companies are getting amalgamated, so the actual cost of the asset transferred from amalgamating companies to the amalgamated companies to the amalgamated company, it's one company, okay, amalgamated companies to amalgamated company. So in this case what happens, the actual cost of the asset would be the very same cost if the amalgamation would not have happened. अगर अमेलगमेशन नहीं हुआ होता तो अमेलगमेटिंग कंपनीज के हाथों में जो भी उसका कॉस्ट होता, द वेरी सेम कॉस्ट विल बी रेप्लिकेटेड हियर ऑल्सो. नाउ द नेक्स्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन इज एक्सप्लेनेशन नंबर 7A, which says that capital asset transferred by the demerged company to the resulting company. Demerged company to the resulting companies, right? So in this case what will be the actual cost? The very same thing. अगर demerger नहीं हुआ होता तो वो क्या होता उनके हाथों में, that similar cost will be replicated here also. So यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, एक कंपनी से दो कंपनीज आ रहे हैं, राइट? सो जिस भी कंपनी के हाथों में वो एसेट जाएगा उनके हाथों में द एक्चुअल कॉस्ट वो माना जाएगा, राइट? जो इसके लिए एक्चुअल कॉस्ट था वही एक्चुअल कॉस्ट इसके लिए भी माना जाएगा, रिजल्टिंग कंपनी के लिए भी माना जाएगा. नाउ कमिंग टू एक्सप्लेनेशन नंबर 8. So this explanation says that for example this asset was being purchased by taking a loan, okay, by taking a loan. So if we have taken a loan, so we have to pay interest at a certain amount, right? Certain rate पे हमें interest देना पड़ेगा. So it says that if the like after acquisition this asset was put to use in the business after a certain months, after some months it was put to use in the business, right? So the interest up to the date of actually put to use will be capitalized, right? So for example we acquired this asset on 1st April 2022, and now we are putting it into use in the month of July, 1st July, right? So April, May, June, For all these 3 months, the amount of interest will be capitalized, and after July, from July to March, next year March, the interest amount will be considered as your actual cost, and it will be put to you, it will be debited in the P&L account. Right, now coming to explanation number 9. Okay, so this explanation says that we all know that GST, if you have paid GST, then you get certain ITC, input tax credit. वो क्या होता है कि कुछ अमाउंट उसका रिटर्न आपको क्रेडिट हो जाता है, राइट. सिमिलरली सेनवैट क्रेडिट भी होता है, CENVAT, सेनवैट क्रेडिट भी होता है. So you have paid GST on that asset, and you have also received ITC or senvat credit on that. So in this case, what happens? It will not be a part of the actual asset. Why? Because you paid GST, then you got the credit back, right? So obviously वो आपके हाथ से नहीं जा रहा है. Obviously it will not form a part of the actual cost. But if ITC or senvat credit is not received, then it will form a part of your actual cost. Now the next explanation is explanation number 10, which says that any kind of government grants or subsidies received from the government will be reduced from the actual cost. Now here there are two kinds of subsidy. One is your specific subsidy, and the second one is your general subsidy. So specific subsidy क्या है? उसी particular asset को purchase करने के लिए ही you have got that subsidy. So in this case, the entire amount of subsidy will be reduced from your total cost. But when it comes to your general subsidy, so the proportionate amount which is proportionate amount which is proportionate for this particular asset only, so that particular amount will be reduced from the total cost, right. इस एसेट को खरीदने के लिए जितना लगा है आपको आपके पूरे टोटल कैपेक्स में से, उतना प्रोपोर्शन का वो माइनस हो जाएगा एक्चुअल कॉस्ट में से, राइट. Now the next explanation number 11 is a very interesting one. It says that this is an SSE. Okay, so this SSE used to use this particular asset outside India for business purpose, right? Outside India for business purpose, and she is a non-resident. So in this case, what will be the actual cost of this asset? The actual cost will be the actual cost to the SSE reduced by the amount of depreciation with the rate which is in force allowable to the SSE. If she had been used this, she would have used this asset in India. अगर वो इंडिया में रह के ही इस पर्टिकुलर एसेट को यूज करती तो कितना डेप्रिसिएशन होता? दैट पर्टिकुलर डेप्रिसिएशन अमाउंट वुड बी डिडक्टेड फ्रॉम द टोटल कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन ऑफ दिस एसेट, राइट. So that will be your actual cost. Now explanation number 12 says that see, we know that earlier the stock exchanges of India used to be AOP or BOI, right? But now they have turned into companies. So obviously तो जो भी वो AOP BOI में whatever asset they used to have, all those assets got converted into the assets of the companies, right? NSE, BSE, these are now companies. So the actual cost of those assets would be the actual cost as if no corporatization occurred, right? अगर कंपनी में कन्वर्ट नहीं होता, if it wouldn't have converted into companies, then what would have been their actual cost? That will be considered as your actual cost only, right? I hope you have understood this particular video. I know this is a lengthy one, but this is indeed a very important video, and do watch it again if you are not very clear about it. And yes, after this you can try solving some questions so that all your concepts which we revised today will be clear. If you find this video helpful, then please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, The Witty Turtle, and also don't forget to share this video with your CA Final and CMA Final friends.